Good afternoon. My name is Jenny Gluck, and I want to thank the organizers and Effort University for allowing me to talk about my passion, which is Makerspaces. We have one at Syracuse University, and it took a multi-year effort to get it there. And I want to give you the story of how this worked. First, a little about me. I've been at Syracuse University for over 20 years. And in that capacity, I've worked on classrooms, learning management systems, Blackboard, on AV, really the network, server systems. So I've had a variety of jobs at Syracuse University. But I've never had an opportunity to actually build something that was used by everybody across the campus that was also fun. Syracuse University is a large institution. We have over 250 alums, and we have nearly 22,000 students. That's both undergraduate and graduate students. We are 13 schools and colleges. Of them, we have professional schools, and we have administrative or academic schools. Those schools that are about physics or biology, and those schools that are about public communications, such as what I'm doing now, and law, those items. Now, some of the schools, the professional schools, some of them such as architecture, have 3D printers, have technologies that students can use that are associated with that discipline. We wanted to take it the next step forward and make it so that anybody in any school would have the same opportunity to work with those tools. Next is to give you an introduction on our Makerspace. This is a videotape that was done in 2016 by a student that works at Syracuse University.
And Makerspaces is all about building and tinkering and making. And anyone that's known me, when they heard this place was being created, they go, that's you.
These are all open source technologies, so you can really do whatever your imagination allows you to do.
They can come in here and 3D print. They can come in here to learn how to 3D print. We can teach them, they can 3D print, they can embroider, they can laser engrave.
So really, we try to provide AV and technology, digital technology that students could use 24 hours a day, 7 days a week for playing, recreating, developing, and for actually getting their schoolwork done.
It's going to help in the future to be right on the ground running with it. Since I've been working with them so much, I'm hoping that'll be relevant in my career path down the line.
He said, okay, well, what are the next generation computer labs going to look like? What should they have in them? Why not figure out a way to make it so people can actually make things, do things, experiment? And what is it that students don't have an opportunity to use today?
This is something I've done since I was born. Build stuff, tinker, fabricate. I love social interaction, social activity. I learn as much from the students here as I'm showing them.
So today we're going to talk about 4 items in terms of what happens with the Makerspace. One is habits. So what is a Makerspace about? And it's about building habits. Students, they learn habits of creating things. One is about our building process, what it took for us to build our Makerspace. 2, about running, what it takes for us to run the space, and in terms of the metrics of running the space. And then finally about the universal nature of the space, what our hopes are for the future. Habits are formed. We believe that it takes thinking, reflecting, pondering to build items. We wanted a space that it was fun to do that at, and a place where people can actually take the time to do those sorts of things. I want to give you 7 stories of students and faculty involved at the Makerspace and how they went about moving forward. Our first story is from our engineering school. They actually work with high school students to show them that engineering is something they can do. This is a high school class that used the Makerspace to learn how to model. On the back screen you can see that there's a beginning of a modeling activity going on. This is the group of the students and some of the objects that they made as part of this class there. So really it's used for teaching regardless of age and regardless of sex. We have another student who's from the biomedical field who is making a haptic glove. This glove actually interacts with a computer. So if you see something on a computer and you want to feel what it really would be like, you would use this glove. This student went on with a couple other students to start a business using this glove for virtual reality and medical applications. Story 3 is from arts and sciences. So the first two from engineering, this one is from arts and sciences. This is where a faculty member needed more tools to do their research. They built a microscope. You can see by the colors, the gray, the purple, the beige, and the black, those are items printed in our Makerspace. Now, the thing about a Makerspace is you can build these parts, and then you can add other parts that you buy off the shelf, such as screws or Arduinos or other items, electronics. So a whole array of these were built and used by this faculty member, grad students, and other students. Our fourth story is about enabling learning. We want the Makerspace to not only be a place where you can build and create things, but we also want it to be a tool that supports learning. Here, our School of Citizenship, our Maxwell School of Citizenship, was teaching an economics class, and one of the students was blind. So that student really couldn't understand what the graphs were telling them. An audio description, a Braille description didn't do it justice. So what we did is we took those graphs and we actually printed them. And now the student can feel them. And not only can they feel them, but others in the class can feel them as well. Our fifth story is about creating clothes, or creating fashion, however you want to look at it. This is from our Visual and Performing Arts School. This is a school that has both drama departments as well as creating design, Department of Design. This student wanted to create an object and use the embroidery machine that we have in our Makerspace. So it's not just 3D printers, it's also embroidery machines and other tools that we have, laser engravers and others in our Makerspace. Student made these objects, put them together, and made this full part of a dress, and actually used this as a final project and did very well because of our Makerspace. So it's not just about making things for your school projects, it's not just about learning, it's not just about creating things for people to enable them to learn, but it's also about art, things that you don't get to do otherwise. So here's a student who's in our School of Architecture who, along with building buildings and other things, is an artist. And so she wanted to create her art on objects. So she was able to use our laser engraver. It so happens that Ms. Kasim was also a student employee of ours and helped many students use the Makerspace. Now that we've talked about learning, we've talked about building art, we've talked about present case and how things are used. Well, it's also true that we've gone from prototype to product. Here we had a student who was building a way to save lipstick, to protect the last 30% of lipstick and pull it out to be able to use it, to save money, right? And so she had been paying others to help her prototype her object. But unfortunately, that cost a lot and there was a time delay. She found the Makerspace, she worked with our staff there, and she was able to make the prototypes quickly and make a prototype that actually worked, and then she was able to ship it out and get them made, large volumes of them, and you can buy this today. So those are just 7 stories of how we're using it. Now I'd like to talk about building the Makerspace, what it took to build it. Building is iterative, so we built it, but we're never really done, right? But we built it, and it's something that we're going to use, but we're never really done. There are 4 things to building it. One is the concept of what it is we're going to do. Another is the facility of how it's going to look. Another is the commissioning of it. And so it's those objects and how you populate it. So first, the concept. We wanted a place that was do-it-yourself technologies, that anybody across the campus, I don't care what discipline you're from, I don't care what school you're from, I don't care where you're from, I don't even care what skills you do or don't have, you can use this space to make your products. That was our primary concept. Also, I knew about summer camp. I don't know if summer camp is familiar to everybody else, but it's a place you go to learn and play. We wanted a place that had that feel to it. We wanted a place that was flexible, that it was safe. So that meant environmentally safe. That meant that we had the equipment that didn't have vapors that would bother students, that we had fire protection, that it was easy access, that it was safe. So one of the things we have is in terms of ramps in and fire alarms and those sorts of suppression mechanisms. We wanted roomy, easy to move around, and we wanted to be flexible. It could be one thing one day, training, or building, or collaborating, or making videos, whatever it would take the next day. This is a picture of the entry into the Makerspace. You go in and down the ramp, you see printers to your right, and you see this sort of open area as you move forward. This is inside the makerspace. To your left, you see one of our printers. In front of you, you see the glass area, which has the majority of our printers, along with other devices that are probably a little bit more risky to use without training nature. And then to the right is some training area. This is the area to the right where there are screens. Those are interactive screens that faculty use to bring students in and teach, that we use to bring those students you saw earlier, used for brainstorming, used for modeling, used for workshops. This is a presentation going on there. So this was a tournament, sort of where students were competing for the best product. So this was a presentation at that event. These are private spaces where students can go and collaborate and talk about their projects, work with others, make Skype calls, whatever they need. These are some workstations that are left in the makerspace. So this makerspace was originally one of our computer labs. It was one of our 24/7 computer labs. And we didn't want to leave that responsibility of the lab behind. We wanted computers to still be something students could use. But we also knew that we needed computers that were a little beefier to do modeling. So we upgraded them, replaced them, and minimized them. So we took out about 20 printers and moved them to another place, 20 computers, moved them to another place, and left these computers there. So now the question is, what technologies do we have? Well, we have a variety of things. And I'm going to have John Magicaro tell you about those things in just a second.
In our makerspace at this current moment, we have about 30 3D printers, and we have one stereolithographic printer that uses a polymer and a resin. That's pretty much what gets the most use here are our 3D printers. We also have a laser engraver that can cut wood, MDF board. It could also engrave wood or MDF board. It can engrave on glass. We have a vinyl cutter that will take just basic vector graphics or Illustrator graphics that can cut different types of vinyl. We have a little electronics area that we can teach people with soldering pencils, and we can teach just a little bit of electronics because a lot of maker materials or maker projects might include electrical component. We have CNC lathe, 4th axis mill, and a CNC router. We are getting a few new things in. We're getting a few more printers. We're getting a vinyl printer that will print on vinyl and then cut on vinyl. We're getting dye sublimation equipment that will be able to superimpose dye sublimate on polyester materials like mugs or plates or shirts. So we're getting those as well.
These are some examples of the printers that we have there that John was talking about. These happen to be MakerBots. These are 2 of the 30 or more that we have, and by the way, we're actually buying more. These are more printers, and you can see we had to build shelving units. We had so many printers that we couldn't actually have them. Originally, we had them on tables, and we had to grow that. This is our GigaBot. This printer was designed and built by an alumnus with some others, and who went off to start their own company, RE:3D. And we actually just bought another one. That's our biggest printer, and it's also been our workhorse. These are the threads from the embroidery machine. You saw earlier embroidery from this object. This is used by a variety of people, not only from visual performing arts, but others who want to do logos or sew gloves together or do something else. This is our laser engraver. It's in a little room you can see in the back and under lock because you could hurt yourself with that, but that was used to do those pretty glasses. It's also used by us to do our own work for our own spaces. This is a workbench. This workbench is one that was in our staff area, in our engineering area, that we used to maintain some of the AV equipment across the campus. And when we built the Makerspace, we said, why have 2 areas? Why not make our engineering area close to the same as the Makerspace area? So our staff use this space as well as our students and faculty across the campus. Let's talk about commissioning. What does it take to run a Makerspace? Well, one, you need to think about your policies. What are the policies that you have to make it survivable and successful? Then you also need to plan for your consumables. From a policy perspective, we have about 5 to 15 students working in the Makerspace, and we wanted to be sure that we knew they were certified to run the equipment. We also knew that they could help students who came in, that they could consult, or faculty that come in, or others that would come in and visit, visitors, alumnus, or whatever. So we actually came up with a system where you had an ID card, you can see John there and another person on the left there, and then the little symbols for being certified or able to work on that equipment. So know those things and have your safety and security certifications around them. We also needed to set up some structure about how much usage of consumables people would take. We knew we couldn't supply all the consumables that people would want across the world. So we set up 150 grams per job of 200 grams per week. And if you want to do more, so we're not going to stop you, but you need to buy it and bring in your own. But this is to get you started. We also have a policy, not expressed here, which is that if you are a student who uses the Makerspace a lot or has access to a number of 3D printers, and you're a student and another student comes in who's never touched one before, who's never used one before, we want to give that student preference over you. So you will wait, because we want this to be a place where people who don't have an opportunity to use these tools can use these tools. So have your policy in order. These are just some of the consumables. So there are colors. Most printers are a single extruder or single color, but we have one printer that's coming in that's going to be a dual extruder. So now we can begin to mix colors. We're always looking to evolve. Another policy is you have to come to a Makerspace staff member to print, to do things. And the reason we did that is because it's not just you create the object and you're done. There's questions about, structural support, density, what weight's going to be bearing on it, how you're going to use it. And so we want to consult and be sure students understand what they're doing and make sure that it's right sized for the project they have. Some of that is about using the right software. So Tinkercad is the software we use most often to build things. It's open source, it's free. I invite you to go there today and set up an account and begin to create things. There's all kinds of already existing objects that you can take and print if you want. Simplify 3D is what we use to talk about what's inside the print job, whether you have a raft, whether you build it on another layer so that it doesn't curl or so it's stable, whether you skirt it, which is a way to actually run around the print job to make sure the extruder is working correctly, whether you put a brim on it. There's a variety of what your infill is. So Simplify 3D is what we use most commonly. This is a video showing printing of a large object on our largest printer. This is that finished product. This product is 30 kilograms of material. So it's fairly large. The student had to bring in their own material. We weren't going to pay for this one. This is a big object. This is a tombstone used for evaluation. So almost anything can be built there. Some people built chairs. So let's talk about running a makerspace. It takes energy to run it, but it also takes time to reflect and figure out what's working right. Some of the things we do is look at who's actually using the makerspace. So this is a snapshot in time of folks who are using it. You can see our dominant users are students, which is what we want. We have staff using it. That could be us, but it also could be other staff across the campus that maybe are doing our physical plant people or others. We have faculty using it. In many cases, faculty don't log in as much because they're often teaching in there, and so we don't have a job. These are jobs being done at the Makerspace. A sister school, Engineering, Science, and Forestry, is nearby, and they're using it as well. And then, of course, we have alumnus that come back and use it. We want this to be open to anybody to use. These are some of the disciplines that are using it. These are individuals from these disciplines that are using it. So you can see the majority of them are from engineering and architecture, but that's not all of them. Design is the Visual Performing Arts, the Department of Design. Arts and Sciences, Transmedia, Public Communications. It's growing, and it's across the entire campus, which is exactly what we wanted. And hopefully that'll continue to expand, and it'll continue to grow throughout the years to come. One of the things we ran into was our use was growing, and we weren't able to get the jobs out quick enough. And so we said, okay, there's got to be a problem here. Let's look at it. And so we begin to look at when the jobs came in most often. And you can see midday is when we get most of the jobs. Well, a print job, like that big tombstone you saw earlier, That was over 150 hours of printing. Now that's a big one, but nonetheless, they often take multiple hours to do them. And so often we'll start the jobs and let them run through the night. And we had to set up workflow to do that. So this is a show of the workflow. On the left, you see our daily report that shows how long it takes to, what's going on for the day. And on the right, you see where people can come up and pick their jobs. So in the morning, they'll stop in, or whenever they'll stop in, and they'll see their jobs, and we label them. So the Makerspace is universal. It is available to anybody. We want it to grow and continue to be that way. We want it accessible regardless of your ability or disability, regardless of your skill or lack of skill. It is open to everybody all the time. We also wanted to use it as a stepping stone. So we actually diverged and said, well, this is the physical manifestation of making things. What about the digital manifestation of making things? So we have a new space opening up called the Digital Scholarship Space, which opens in a few weeks on March 8th. And that allows you to do virtual reality, 3D modeling for games, playing games, making games. So that's a parallel to the physical manifestation of the Makerspace. I want to thank a variety of people. They're not all listed here. There are too many to mention them all, but these are some of the prime folks that help us get our Makerspace off and moving forward. Thank them. And now, time for questions and my contact information. Thank you, and have a good day.